Dear Thai, dear Sangha, thank you all for your presence this evening. By this time, I hope you have all had a chance to read the two documents I sent you by email. In one of the two documents, the question of is Buddhism a religion has been raised. My thought that I collected in this document showed my convinced belief that Buddhism at the outset was not a religion. So let me show you the plan for my tonight. There will be 3 points followed by some concluding remarks. So this is the first that I will touch upon. The question is, how was the life of the Buddha and his followers at the time of the Buddha? Members of the Buddha original Sangha did not see themselves as religious people. They lived the life of spiritual seekers and used their time and energy to conduct rigorous meditation experiments under the Buddha's guidance. At that time, the Buddha did not appear as a god-like being. He was a man among other men, and people simply characterized him by his composed and silent bearing. This is why he was called Shakyamuni, which in Sanskrit means the silent one of the Sakya clan. It was by virtue of being deeply human that the Buddha was able to touch people's heart and to inspire them to follow his path of practice, and not by resorting to flashy display of the supernatural powers. He does not display the qualities of a religious leader, and yet there is something so genuine and so beautiful about the way he lived. Very soon after his passing away, the vast majority of his followers stopped valuing his pragmatic and scientific attitude. As Buddhists became ever more devoted to the Buddha's works, they also became less interested in the living experience of Buddhist meditation. This can be seen as the birth of popular Buddhism, or as a mutation of the Buddha's path into a world religion. People start to express their devotion to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the monastic Sangha rather than applying the practices in order to generate more happiness and well-being in their own lives. Just a few centuries after the Buddha passing, the Mahayana school viewed the Buddha as an omniscient and all-pervading God. In the meantime, the Theravada school, while formally remaining attached to the view that the Buddha was a human being, practically started to ascribe to him all kinds of supernatural powers, considering him as supreme among all humans. However, the pivotal moment can probably be identified as after the Third Council, around 100 years later, where the conservative faction of the Buddha disciple took a dominant role. However, Buddhism did not fossilize and die, thanks to the courage, determination, and the insight of a great number of monks, nuns, and lay people. The essence of the teaching did survive to our days. So let's go to our next presentation as planned for tonight. So this is about Thay's effort in renewing Buddhism, often mentioned now as the Plum Village tradition. And as most of us already know, Plum Village tradition, with Thai guidance, was since the very beginning a reform movement which had the aspiration to renew the Buddha's teaching and to make them more effective and applicable for our modern society. Our teacher Thai, in his teaching career, was met with constant opposition and obstruction from the side of the more conservative Buddhist institutions. But he succeeded, nonetheless, in creating a beautiful and flourishing community. Thai, in my view, like the Buddha, was not interested in giving us some belief for us to grasp at. He saw the spiritual path as an endless exploration of the mind and of phenomena, and always discouraged his students from getting too attached to views and ideas. And this spirit is so important that Thầy made it the topic of the first 3 mindfulness trainings of the 14 mindfulness trainings with it. So let us move on with our next. This is a very brief introduction of the Kalama Sutra. The Kalama Sutra is a beautiful and clear example of the Buddha's attitude toward the spiritual life. One day, a group of people from the Kalama tribe came to the Buddha and asked, "Dear Buddha, we hear of many teachers all proclaiming a different doctrine and claiming that what they are, proclaiming are the truth. How can we distinguish who is really speaking the truth and who is a charlatan? Who should we believe in?" So the Buddha could have said, "I have the truth, you should believe me." But instead he replied, "You should believe and have faith in those teachings once applied, actually work." So he repeated, "You should believe and have faith in those teachers." In other words, if someone is telling you to believe something that does not make you feel better and does not further your spiritual growth, then you should not listen to him anymore. So in some sense, The spirit of early Buddhism was clearly quite scientific and pragmatic. What I call the spirit of inquiry is what we consider to be one of the fundamental differences between traditional religions and spiritual movements. So let us continue our talk this evening. Let me conclude my talk in telling you this. Is Buddhism a religion? In conclusion, the Buddha is only a teacher who points out the way and guides the followers to their individual deliverance. Buddhism advocates the search for truth. The Buddha emphasizes on the practical aspect of his teaching, the application of the teachings into life. The Buddhist teaching is about the understanding of the unsatisfactory nature of all phenomenal existence and the cultivation of the path leading away from this unsatisfactoriness. So, I would like to ask the question for our Dharma sharing tonight. Could you tell us what you think about the unsatisfactory nature of all phenomenal existence? How do you understand that? So, as a nutshell of the Buddhist doctrine of conditionality, let us repeat what the Buddha taught. When this is, that's come to be. When this arising of this, that arises. When it is not, that does not come to be. And with the cessation of this, that will cease. So I present again a deep bow to all of you, and I invite you now to listen to a piece of music. Breathe and you know that you are alive. Breathe and you know that's all is helping you. Breathe and you know that you are the world. Breathe and you know that the flower is breathing you. Breathe for yourself and breathe for the world. Breathe in compassion and breathe out of joy. Breathe and be one with the air that you breathe. Breathe and be one with the river that flows. Breathe and be one with the earth that you tread. Breathe and be one with the fire that glows. Breathe and you break the thought of birth and death. Breathe in you see impermanent is life. Breathe for your joy to be steady and calm. Breathe for your sorrow to flow away. Breathe to renew every cell in your blood. Breathe to renew the depths of consciousness. Breathe and you dwell in the here and now. Breathe and your touch is new and real. Breathe for yourself and breathe for the world. Breathe in compassion and breathe out